Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to this month's Culinary Hour, International Culinary Hour. We're going to take a break from Europe for a while because we covered a lot of European countries. So we're going to South America today, in particular the country of Argentina. If you look in your fact sheet, we'll go over a couple of facts. Most regions of Argentina are known for their beef-oriented diet. Actually, South American beef is really good as a whole. It's very strictly government controlled, even more so than American beef is. So South American beef is by far very prime. Grilled meat from the asado or barbecue is common, with steak and beef ribs especially common. The most common condiment is chimichurri. Chimichurri is a combination of like herbs, mostly parsley. It could be Italian flat leaf parsley, red wine vinegar, olive oil, salt, and pepper, but it's very highly herbaceous, kind of like almost like a pesto, but it's in liquid form. Add like a little red wine vinegar to it, and olive, like a vinaigrette, but it's like inundated with tons of herbs to give it like thickening. That's what chimichurri is. Salads, tomatoes, onions, lettuce, eggplants, squashes, and zucchini are common side dishes. A sweet paste, dulce de leche, is another treasured national food used to fill cakes and pancakes spread over toasted bread for breakfast or served with ice cream. Typical drinks include wine, tea, and coffee. I'm going to go over the regions of Argentina a little bit here. The central region in Las Pampas includes Buenos Aires, Rosario, and Cordoba. They welcomed immigrants from Spain and Italy. This area also has welcomed German, Swiss, and Middle Eastern immigrants. Pizza, bread products, provolone, matambre are common dishes. Matambre is what we're going to make today. In Hispanic, it means hunger killer. If you look at the recipe, you'll see. We're going to talk about beef. I'll talk about it a little bit. It's Northwest and Cuyo, most influenced by the native Indians. Potatoes, corn, and wheat are extensively used. Stews and casseroles are also typical of this region. Mesopotamia area abounds in rivers and shores, consequently offers a wide diversity of fish species such as dorado, boga, and silverside. Cassava is widely used, as is papaya. And the last area is Patagonia. Marine species such as crab, salmon, squid, that's a misprint. There's no squids in the, and shellfish are widely used with an abundance of trout in the rivers. The northern and central European settlements in this region developed large-scale production of chocolate and its byproducts. Wine is the most popular beverage of Argentina by far, actually. They produce a lot of good wines. Although beer has become very popular in recent decades. The biggest meal of the day is lunch, excluding large cities. It's common not to eat dinner until 9 p.m. So I'm going to cover the first dish. I'm going to serve with a side. Well, I'm going to serve it with basil potatoes. Very simple dish. A lot of Italian influence actually in the country. You're going to see here. Native American influence also included in this dish, with the inclusion of corn and the cooking method actually too, the stewing and casseroles too. Well, I'm going to start with this matambre. Let's start with the flank steak. Flank steak here you've probably seen before. This is actually the original London broil, but until people started other applications, the price went up. Then these inside rounds now labeled as London broil, but this is actually the original London broil. This comes from basically the underside right here, the carrot here on the side, the abdomen area. So you're going to see it's very highly striated. If I was going to grill this on a grill and just even deviate 10-20 degrees against those fibers, it ends up being very tough. The key to this meat is you want to slice it very perpendicular to those fibers, because otherwise it's going to taste like it's undercooked, like very chewy. So you always want to cross cut them perpendicular on surface. Now that being said, I'm going to trim this first. For this dish you have to butterfly it and get rid of all the residual fat, silver skin. I'm going to remove all the cartilage, the silver skin. That's pretty much to the point where it's fairly lean. A little fat won't matter. Now to butterfly this, like I said before, keep in mind you have to cut this, the final product. This is actually going to be butterflied, marinated, and I'm going to roll it. And the final product, after it's braised, I have to cut it. So I want the final product actually, if you want to butterfly it, to have those striations lengthwise, so I can cut against that grain. So if I'm going to butterfly it, I'm going to do it with the grain to one side. I'll show you. Butterfly is cutting in half. Just kind of work your way down. When you're close to that edge, you're going to stop. That's pretty much butterfly there. So the reason for that is now when I stuff it, I'm going to roll it back up jelly roll fashion, and then after I tie it, the striations will still be in that form. That's why I want to butterfly it the lengthwise to the opposite length. Now, as you can see, because it's like through manufacturing and the convolutions of the meat, you're going to get some points that are larger in other areas and very thin in other areas too. So you can do this. There's a couple reasons why I'd like when to pound your meat or beat it, is because there's about 2 or 3 things you got to do. If you look at the meat, you're going to see it's really big here and very thin here. So when you beat it, it's going to be a way to make the width of the meat equal across the whole plane. So you're not going to have like an overcooked side and an undercooked side. Now also, when you do that, the pressure on the meat also breaks apart any connective tissues. So you really want to focus on the bigger portions. So it's pretty much uniform inside. So the reason why I do that, basically you want to make a thin piece of meat. Also, break the connective tissues. Also, if I did not pound it like that, if I had like a chicken breast, say, and left it instead of pounding it, I have more surface area exposed. So when they do that, you have more seasoning too. So those are 3 reasons why I do that actually. Evenness in cooking, for seasoning, and for tenderizing. Now this, for all the recipe, I'm not going to make the marinade. I'm going to focus on pretty much fabrication of rolling the meat. So if you look at the marinade, the olive oil, red wine, first one, garlic cloves, cilantro, basil, olive oil, red wine vinegar, and pepper. That was mixed yesterday. So that piece right here has been sitting for 24 hours. Is pretty much what you get. So has a very intense flavor of garlic, which is nice too. At this point in time, I'm going to do the stuffing. First ingredient is mitapan. Mitapan is nothing more than untoasted fresh bread. You like white bread, put it in a processor, it's very soft. Okay, so that's all it means. It's a French term. I'm going to proceed with I have carrots and corn in here. I got blanched spinach that was chopped. And I'm going to use this egg. I'm going to use a red onion for this. I'm going to show you slicing versus dicing too. Now, if I want slices, see the core end in there? Cut it right down the middle. Now for slices, if I want to dice, I want to keep that core there because it's going to hold everything together. So if you go progressively down like this, then you get your dice like that. I'll tell you one slice. I'm going to use half an onion. So you want to get rid of that core because then all the slices will come separate with each cut. If you keep that core to retain it, because you're going to have to deal with like small pieces and all those little things are held together at that knot. You remove it now for slicing. Go in here. That's pretty much a stuffing. Obviously salt and pepper. It's always good to let this rest. Because sometimes the onion and the carrot will leach out some juices. So this right here is the same stuffing as this one is, but it's always good to let it rest. It's easier to spread. So back to this. You go up to leave about an inch border. like Brazil, you know, probably the Italian influence in this too. You can start from this one end, tuck it in pretty tight. As you can see, the striations are still going that way, so after it's cooked, I'm assured when I slice it, I'll be going against the grain. So you just butcher's twine. There's a lot of ways, obviously, to tie roast. So I'm going to show you one method, the method I use, and I really haven't deviated from. It's easy. Sometimes recipes will tell you to cut like strips like this, to individually tie it. Along there, you can do it that way as well. I prefer to use one cord, and you can adjust the tension as you go along. So you start, you see this here, short underneath the meat, bring it around like this. You wrap it, this is your first knot, you want to make a lock knot on this. Make a loop, go through and pull it tight. Yep, now they can still move on you, so you want to lock it, you wrap around your fingers once, grab that end, and pull down. From this point forward, you can do successive loops. Just put it around like this a couple times and follow it all the way down. Some stuffing, that's right. The ends. I go to the end here, cinch it. All I got to do is loop around the base, well, the one you just didn't follow it all the way up. Final tie is going to be the original one. Now back to the beginning. Lock that really tight. And slice it. So now I can sear it, braise it in here. It's not going to fall apart on me. Now the reason obviously that you want to retain the stuffing. After it's braised, I'll cut that string off, and it helps that roulade shape. It'll stay in there. So at this point forward, I'm going to start with the cooking of it. So, I'm going to braise. This is a good pan for this size. It'll fit in there, I can jam it in there. You want straight sides. You want to sear it. Like we talked about a little bit before, the called the Maillard reaction. Every time you make a braise or a stew, introduce your meat to a very hot oil, and you want to brown the outside of that meat. You're going to caramelize the meat proteins, because when you're doing that, each meat has its own makeup, obviously, but you're going to form hundreds of different compounds to that searing of the meat, and you don't want to lose that. Also, whatever collects on the bottom of the pan gives you that intense, rich flavor. They're called the fond. You want to deglaze and introduce that to your sauce later on. So we're going to start first by searing the meat. Oil. This is pretty cool because most of the flavoring agents were added in the marinade, the cilantro, the garlic. So I really don't have to add much to the sauce besides the demi, the wine, and the brown stock. You want that right away, that searing. There's also a myth too, sometimes you read when you sear the meat, it helps retain juices. That doesn't happen at all. If I was to take that piece of meat of equal weight, another one just like it, put them both in the oven at the same temperature, same time, the one that was not seared, by far, would have a greater retention of moisture. So, the only reason to do that really is for color, for flavor, for texture, obviously taste. Okay? Nothing to sear in any juices, that's like a myth. There's no magic board that happens when you sear that meat. It's only for those, for color, flavor, texture only. But in this particular case, when you do that, you're not worried about losing any of the moisture because you'll be cooking in a liquid medium. Kind of what you're looking for over here. This is what I want to show you here. See the browning on top there? That's what you're looking for. Now that stuff, the fond on the bottom is collecting. Be in your sauce. You don't want to lose that either. It's just part of your sauce. Good, meat's here. In this bit, you want to add a liquid to remove all those bits. I'm going to start with the red wine. You stir it, you're going to scrape all the bits on the bottom of the pan up, so now it'll become part of your sauce. In this picture here I have the brown stock and the brown sauce. Brown sauce, when you're making what they call demi-glace in that, what you do first, you're making a demi-glace, you're making a brown stock, and then you're going to thicken it. And then you're going to add an equal amount of beef stock again and reduce it to the original volume, so it's a really thickened beef stock. And then you're adding a little more, you thicken it also with the roux, and at this stage of the game you add a little more beef stock to like enhance it again, so it's kind of like really intense the beef liquor in there. So you want to keep it pretty much punchful of beef. Okay, now whenever you raise, you want to make sure the liquid comes to a simmer. Now if you look at this pan, I'll kind of show you a little bit if I can. Well, whenever you braise, you want the liquid to come about halfway to 2/3 the side of the meat. Because you want to completely cover it through halfway cooked, because halfway through it, you're going to turn the meat over to ensure that that's cooking in the liquid as well too. Okay? So at this point in time, looking for a simmer. And all the beef juices, obviously, and from the marinade will come in here. So this sauce that you're going to see that I made has slightly sour taste. That was the addition of the vinegar in the original marinade of the beef, so the beef had to retain that marinade as part of the flavoring agent. But this sauce that you have is like a nice brown, it's kind of light, not too thick. Has a nice acid flavor to it from the red wine vinegar. And garlic and just cilantro in there. Okay, now the braise as opposed to a stew, if it's really just a cut of meat. If I had like I don't know, chuck or something like that in 1-inch cubes, I should do the same thing. Stewing is just refers to bite-sized piece of meat versus a large piece. This is braising. You're using large cuts of meat, the liquid medium at low temperature. So after this comes to a simmer, you're going to cover it with foil, and you finish it in about a 350-degree oven. Take about 2 hours until it's tender. Okay? Any questions? Yes?
What kind of knife did you use to fillet the steak to butterfly?
Oh, okay. This is actually a slicing knife. You can use this for like thin cuts of meat. I'll be using it also to slice the meat. There's a couple here. This is the bony knife. This is a chef's knife. This is for general utility purposes, for mincing vegetables, dicing. The boning knife is a good option when you're taking meat off the bone. That's what these are for. The blade flexes so it can go around the bone. This is used for very thin cuts of meat. You can see the blade is very thin. This kind of ensures that you can gauge the width of your cuts a little better. And it doesn't like have much of a wedge as this one does. It's a very thin blade, very sharp. And you want to do like long strokes with this. Usually for serving meats usually. But this one is very, the flank stick was very thin and long, so I kind of used this one. It's sharp and it kind of took care of the job without tearing the meat apart. The side dish, very simple. I took fingerling potatoes, a little olive oil, salt, and pepper, and they're called just basil potatoes. They're side dishes are very simple, but they got good flavor. I'll use one more cut. I'm going to show you. Basil turns very black if you manipulate it too much. If you ever see a recipe called the chiffonade of basil, that's what you do. You take your leaves. These are basil leaves, fresh basil leaves. You want to stack them. What you're going to do is you want to kind of roll it tight. Kind of like you're rolling a cigar. And you proceed down, making thin strips. You just keep on shaving it as you go down. So in effect, is what you get these long strands of like the fresh basil. It's nice. These right here are the fingerling potatoes. Touching on Todd's demo too. This is more like a, it's a chef's potato. It's not high starch. Has a creamy texture to it. Unlike a russet or Idaho potato used for baking or frying, these are very good for roasting. Just roast them whole like that, olive oil, salt, and pepper. And just finish it with fresh basil. Now the rolls, I made 9 of them. Still think we have enough here. So basically this ends up being here's the finished product here. Look for tender. It's pretty tender. So.
How long did you cook them?
About 2 hours and 15 minutes. It was in 350, after it got seared, the liquid came to a simmer. Covered pan, 350 for about 2 hours, 15 minutes. Until it gets really tender. I think it's tender. Yeah, obviously you want to take this string off.
You put the liquid and all into the pan? The demi-glaze?
Demi-glaze, beef stock, and the red wine.
All into the oven?
Yes, the meat is sitting in that pan. So after the pan comes to a simmer, just take the whole pan, cover it, and put it in the oven. Yep. As you can see, I still see the lines. That's like starting to shred a little. So even now, if I go like this, you're gonna get a pretty tough cut of meat. You always want to, when you slice flank steak, stay very perpendicular to the lines of striation. This one's always tough. Yep, that's pretty much what you get there. All right. Any questions before I start slicing and serving? Yes?
When you started with the flank, did you tenderize it? Did you pound that out? Or is that how you bought it at the store?
Oh no. When I start with the flank, it comes like that. I pound that out after the slicing because after, even when you buy the meat, like I'll put it back together again here a little bit. It'll come in this form or like this, the whole steak. So then I sliced it in half, butterflied it, and then you cover it and then pound it because you're gonna get like convolutions, thicker parts in it. You want to go like look for your thinnest part, and then put like saran, like look for the thick ones, try to make it as thin as that one is. You know, so it's kind of even as much as you can, and then you roll and proceed from there. Yep, sure. Anything else?
So after the meat spent all that time in the marinade, it was very brown. It looked like it had already been cooked. What happened there? Like,
Oh, the marinade. I'm sorry.
Once you pulled it out of the marinade.
Oh, I thought you said, okay. I thought you said the brownie. It's just the acid's influence on the meat. Pretty much, it's gonna attack the fibers, meat fibers. There's some discoloration involved. Also from oxidation from the surrounding air as well too. That happens as well for the brownie of the meat because it's not completely hermetically sealed enough like that. But the acid, the vinegar, will attack the meat. It has a tendency to turn it brown. Yep. Plus, it was a red wine vinegar I used, so that will kind of darken it as well too. Man, quiet crowd. Lisa, question?
Hungry crowd, yeah.
Okay, all right, enough said. Everybody said this before, but tombre, the word means hunger killer. So obviously, if you're looking here, you're gonna have like your there's vegetables, there's starch in the corn, there's meat. So basically, the meal is all inclusive in this one. So a lot. Plus, you have your breadcrumbs. So it's like pretty much includes everything, you know. Yeah.
How long do you let the stuffing sit before you put it in the meat?
Yeah, I do like about an hour.
Now?
Not that much, yeah. And you kind of look at it. You want to make sure it's kind of like thick enough, spreadable, you know.
All right.
What happens is when you salt, pepper it, the salt is going to aid in getting a lot of the juice out of the onion and the raw carrot too. But that breadcrumb is there to help absorb it, but it's good flavor too as well. It's a moisturizer, but it's a good flavor. So you're gonna wait, we basically wait for the salt to take effect, you know. There's another thing I want to show you too. Sometimes if you look in a stew, I'm gonna show you how many times you guys make a stew or something like that, you're adding bay leaves, you gotta fish them out. This is really handy. If you like braising or anything like that, take a piece of cheesecloth. In this case, this instance, I had bay leaf in it. I'll use some dried oregano. It could be any herbs you're using. Whole pepper, this whole peppercorns here. The best thing to do is just tie it up in that braising liquid. This way you don't have to worry about like the bay leaf fishing them out or any herbs like that. You just take this with a piece of the same string and you tie it up like a bundle. And this will go right in your braising liquid when you're cooking the stew. So at the end, when the cooking time is done, all you do is fish this out. And you know the bay leaves and everything. When these whole peppercorns, you don't have to worry about it, like people chewing on it. This is the best way to do it. Is put it in a cheesecloth and like put it part of your braise and pull it out when the stew is done. Like it? All right.